And good morning, good people. This is your PooleProof wisdom moment for Friday, and I hope that you're ready for a good weekend ahead. Hey, listen, a lot of us are always looking for the way to be happier. Happier with our lives, happier with everything that define those lives, and looking for the answers that help us get from wherever we are to that level of happy. But more interestingly, many of us, perhaps not as vocally, are looking for ways not to be unhappy. You know what I mean? There's a difference. Being happy versus unhappy, they're two distinctly different things, because happy is a state of mind that's defined by one thing, while unhappiness is defined by something altogether different. And it's in the nature of that unhappiness that so much of what prevents us from being happy can be aligned. Now, while I say that they're different things, when you're happy, you know it. But goodness, when you are unhappy, you really know it. And so what I want you to think of this morning is what it means if you are unhappy. Give it some real thought. Define what that means for you in terms of where you are versus where you want to be. That's not necessarily going to make you happy, but it's going to make you not unhappy. You get the point? Because if you can be not unhappy, it'll be much easier then to transition next to perhaps a state of happiness, because you're no longer in a state that prevents you from even finding the means to consider pursuing being happy. So I want you to first think about, what will it take not to be unhappy? And often that lies within us. I think we tend to look outwardly for these types of things. Answers for what makes us unhappy external to ourselves, as if that's where the unhappiness resides. But unhappiness is an internalized thing, and you've got to look for the causes. Now, admitting to ourselves that we're unhappy is not a sign of weakness. It's not something that makes us overly vulnerable. There are some vulnerabilities there, and it's certainly not something that says that we're a failure. So admitting to yourself that you're unhappy doesn't mean that you have to accept that there's something wrong with you. There is not. Let's be clear on that. But being unhappy means that something is going on where it is not working for you. And because it's not working for you, it's on your mind, it's on your spirit, and it has a toll, perhaps that's physical, certainly emotional, and it doesn't put you in a good place. And I happen to believe that every day we should endeavor to try to wake up and go through our day in a good place. It doesn't guarantee that we're going to be in that space all day, every day. But if at the end of the day, you can say, I've had a good day. I had a couple of moments that weren't so great, but overall, I've had a good day. That's what you're going for. So let's get back to unhappy. If you're unhappy, what do you do about it? Well, first of all, you've got to be honest with yourself and find out what it is that makes you unhappy. You've got to acknowledge that. As they always say, you've got to own it. And once you own it, whatever it is, however it's come about, and you decide, this is what I need to address so that I can at least be in a position where I can move toward being happier, that's what you've got to do. Now, to do that means that if you want to change things, good people, you're going to have to change things. So if you are unhappy and you have found what is the cause of your unhappiness, it's as simple as this. You've got to change it. You've got to change it. If it is troubling you, if it's making life problematic, if it's causing you pain or suffering or some form of misery, this is not something that you have to sustain. You have got to change it. And that's the hard part for so many of us, because the very things that are making us unhappy, we often refuse to let go because they're comfort zones for us. They can be jobs. They can be relationships. There can be things with our bodies that we don't like that are making us unhappy. But we have a reason that we have somehow justified to use to say, well, I can't do it because of this, or I can't improve because of that. I can't get out of this relationship because we've been together this long. I can't get out of this job because it pays the bills. Don't buy into that. Everything has a solution. And in all of those instances, I'm not necessarily saying that you do it immediately and that you just leave it and drop it. I'm saying, like with everything in life where there's an opportunity, put together a plan. Figure out how you're going to bide your time and extricate yourself from what it is that is making you unhappy. Unhappiness is not a state that any of us were born to live in. No matter where you come from, no matter what you look like, no matter what your life has been so far, you were not born to suffer in this world. You were born to become self-aware, individualized, and powerful beyond the measures you thought were possible, simply because you are given this great opportunity to continue to learn as you grow, as you move forward. And with all of that knowledge, unhappiness is not in the mix, because you should, as you move forward, as you grow and become, know better than to accept the premise that the only thing you have to look forward to is being unhappy for other days, months, and years ahead. So find what that unhappiness factor is in your life. Identify it, acknowledge it, own it, and then put together a plan for how you're going to address it and eliminate it, so that that thing does no longer stand in your way of progress. It's the only way to do it. And some of you aren't going to like the fact that you have to do it. But here's what the truth is. Often, the thing that stands in our own way more than anything else is ourselves. When we stand in our own way, we prevent our own progress, we prevent our own happiness, and we become an obstacle so immovable that at every turn, we lose the chance to progress forward, because we have become so immovable that we can't do anything, and it's no one else's fault. It's not something that happens because of a circumstance. It happens because of us. So there it is, good people. If you want to change from a state of being unhappy to a state of being in a position where you can be happy, well, you've got to change some things. Change those things as they work for you. Don't give yourself 20 years to do it, though. Start today, though. Work toward the goal and look back once you have moved beyond what it was that made you happy into a space where you can be happier. And you'll be surprised when you find yourself saying, why did it take me so long to do this? It's a question none of us really have an answer to, but if we look inherently, we know it was because we weren't ready to do the work, to make the change, and to sustain the benefit of doing so. Don't do that to yourself. And that's your good foolproof wisdom moment for today. I hope that the weekend brings you abundant joy, plenty of things to look forward to, and more than anything else, I hope it finds you in a position where you can move toward being happier in your life. Have a good one.